Hello everybody and welcome to Bull Technology. I've played The Long Dark for several years and I can officially say that it is not only one of my favorite survival games, but one of the best survival games of all time. So today I want to give this terrific game a review, because it deserves more attention. And in the interest of full disclosure, Hinterland is not sponsoring this video, and all of the opinions you're about to hear are entirely my own. The Long Dark is an open-world survival game developed by Hinterland, a small game development company based in Canada. Hinterland describes the game as a thoughtful exploration survival experience that challenges solo players to think for themselves as they explore an expansive, frozen wilderness in the aftermath of a geomagnetic disaster. There are no zombies, only you, the cold, and all the threats Mother Nature can muster. The Long Dark is currently available on many platforms including Linux, Windows, Mac OS, Xbox One and Series consoles, PlayStation 4 and 5 consoles, and the Nintendo Switch. The Long Dark begins with several game options: a story mode, a survival mode, and a challenge mode. We'll explore all of these game modes in more detail, but I'll first start with the survival mode as it will allow us to explore some of The Long Dark's game mechanics. Picking the survival mode will prompt you to select a character and a starting region within the main map, and this brings me to The Long Dark's ever-growing world. The world in The Long Dark is just amazing. The landscapes are thoughtfully laid out, and there are an array of towns, houses, stores, cars, caves, and many more locations to explore and loot. The world is divided into separate regions that vary in difficulty and traversability, and all regions are linked together via caves and other passageways. I'd like to note that new regions are constantly being added to the game, and so you'll always have new areas to explore. Overall, the world is just full of atmosphere and things to do, and I simply love the world in The Long Dark. Anyways, once you select a starting region from the map, you can adjust the game difficulty and then begin your game. As the description of the game implies, the main enemy in the game isn't zombies or players, it's Mother Nature. Wolves, bears, and moose will randomly generate throughout the world, and it'll be your job to either avoid them or hunt them. And surprisingly, the AI of the natural enemies in the game is really good. Let's just say you won't easily find yourself sneaking away from a wolf. But arguably the biggest enemy in the game is not living creatures, but the world itself. The Long Dark's climate is bitter and unforgiving. Early on, your biggest task in the game will be simply trying not to freeze to death by building fires and piling on clothes. You'll also have to closely monitor your food, water, and exhaustion, and allowing any of these categories to fully deplete will hurt your overall wellness. And once your wellness bar is fully depleted, it's game over. Literally, because dying in The Long Dark is permanent. No respawns or revives in this game. So how do you survive in this unforgiving world? Easy. Scavenging, looting, and hunting. Finding existing structures and points of interest are a necessity in The Long Dark. You'll want to loot every building, cave, and town you come across because looting is highly rewarding. Searching filing cabinets, backpacks, and individual drawers will yield food supplies and tools and crafting materials and maybe even weapons. Almost everything is searchable in The Long Dark, and I love it. You can also break down items in the world to harvest precious loot. Find a decaying deer corpse? Harvest it for meat. Find a wooden chair in a building? Break it down for firewood. It's that simple. And this brings me to The Long Dark's crafting and repairing system. Simple items like bandages can be crafted from in-game materials, and finding specific locations in the game can give the player the ability to craft certain materials like bullets and forged items. The crafting system is really one of my few complaints about the game because honestly the crafting system feels very underutilized and I often have to go out of my way to craft something. There's also the durability and repair aspect of the game. Essentially everything in the game, and most notably clothing and tools, has a durability, and these items must be repaired over time with materials you find in the game. This works well enough, and I absolutely love patching together pieces of clothing just to get an extra warmth bonus. Which brings me to staying warm. Because the outdoors is so cold in the long dark, you'll need to constantly take shelter in pre-built structures to stay warm, but you'll also need to constantly be moving to find more supplies. This balance of indoor and outdoor time is perfect because it gives the player an incentive to explore the massive map. And this brings me to the map. Along with constantly exploring, players will also want to constantly fill out the in-game map. When you first start the game, the player will be given a blank map, which you will have to fill out over time by creating charcoal sketches of locations on the map. This is easily one of my favorite mechanics of The Long Dark because filling out the map is so satisfying and rewarding, and I've spent dozens of hours gathering charcoal to meticulously map out regions in The Long Dark. There are many features that I have yet to talk about in The Long Dark, fishing, researching, and skill building being several of them. But overall, let me just say this about the survival aspect of this game. The Long Dark is challenging but rewarding, peaceful yet nerve-wracking, and detailed yet expansive. Surviving in this game is fun and different from other survival games. It's just a different take, and it's done almost perfectly. Not to mention The Long Dark has excellent graphics that are simple and beautiful. The game's audio is really perfect, and for once, a user interface in a game makes sense and is perfectly laid out. There's just a level of fit and finish on this game that's almost next to none. Before I get to the conclusion, I'd like to talk about the Wintermute story mode and the challenge modes in The Long Dark. I won't give away anything from the Wintermute story mode because honestly, it's really good. I've played through the first 3 chapters of the story mode, and it is definitely worth playing. There's a perfect balance of dialogue, questing, and survival that's really excellent, and overall I have very few complaints about the story mode in The Long Dark, and I definitely consider checking it out. The challenge modes in The Long Dark offer a variety of scenarios that you can play through that vary in difficulty, and I have yet to beat any of them, but they definitely offer some excitement to the base game. Fellas, let me say this. The Long Dark is an excellent game, world class, and it's definitely worth playing. At $34.99 on all platforms, I'd say The Long Dark offers a unique and enjoyable survival experience for those who love looting, exploring, and surviving. So as always, be sure to leave a like, a comment, and definitely subscribe. And thank you all for watching.